10 years, $700 million. That is what Shohei Ohtani signed with to be a Los Angeles Dodger for the foreseeable future. Kyle Ledbetter, what was your reaction when you saw the numbers?
The numbers were interesting, and obviously we don't have all the details yet because we don't know what the deferments will look like in his contract, but we were thinking it would be 600 million, 650 million. 700 million wasn't necessarily something we thought was in the cards. And at the end of the day, the Dodgers are the franchise that can pay that because we know what the Dodgers bring in that regional television money. And additionally, we know what Shohei Ohtani brings when it comes to adding value to your franchise, non-baseball related. I mean, the Angels were raking in cash during the Ohtani era, despite the fact that they weren't actually competitive. Every time you turned on an Angels game, you saw advertisements in Japanese behind home plate and on the pitcher's mound because that was the added value of playing for Anaheim. And I'm sure we'll see similar types of arrangements with the Dodgers and in-stadium sponsorships and things of those sorts that will help the Dodgers bring back the money. We'll dive more into what the money means, I'm sure, when we get into what the deferred payments mean and why the contract is at 700 million. But on the surface, when you see 10 years, 700 million, you stop and marvel at that because it's the largest contract in North American pro sports, and it beat the previous number by a good amount.
Did you see the stat that on Brock Purdy's current contract, he would have to play for 800 years to make what Ohtani made in just this deal?
Yeah, I saw that Shohei Ohtani has to play 2 MLB baseball games to make what Brock Purdy made this entire season for the San Francisco 49ers, which is ridiculous to think about. That's like 8 at-bats for Shohei Ohtani to make $1 million.
It just shows parents teach your kids to play baseball and then teach them to be a two-way generational superstar that throws 97, can slug 3 home runs in that same game. By golly, they'll make $700 million. That's all you need to do. Come on. It's simple
Pretty
logic,
much,
guys.
yeah.
Come on. But yeah, I mean, obviously Shohei, well worth the money. You mentioned what he means as a brand coming to the Dodgers, which have their own brand in itself. The odds makers have said it's going to be the Dodgers all off season. We've said it's going to be the Dodgers. Now, I joked in the last video saying I wanted it to be the Giants. So just in the prediction, I said the Giants, but I knew in my heart, I knew in my soul it wasn't going to be the Giants. It was going to be the Dodgers. Now, a question I got to ask is, who had a more embarrassing offseason free agency gaffe? John Morosi saying that he was in Toronto, or John Heyman with the arson judge stuff last year?
Oh, the whole era that I've seen the internet, and I don't know how I feel about this nickname, but it's clever. Flight Show 37 that never happened for Shohei Ohtani. That whole thing that happened Friday was incredible, just truly incredible. Because if you remember, and I wrote about this in my book, you guys should check it out. When Kawhi Leonard was re-signing or in free agency after the Toronto championship, he flew to Toronto. His flights were intercepted, and a news helicopter chased Kawhi Leonard's car down the freeway in Toronto when they were going to meet at a hotel with the Raptors. This is not unprecedented territory for Toronto news media to be chasing flight trackers and looking at flight patterns to try and figure out who was going there. But what made it crazy was John Morosi reporting it as fact, despite the fact that all of this began as speculation on Reddit. And maybe the flight from Orange County to Toronto would have been Ohtani had all of this not broken, and then he pulled himself off of the flight, or the flight took off without him, or whatever you want to say was the reason why Shohei Ohtani wasn't on that plane. But the fact that we had that information, that the internet was trying to decipher what Yusei Kikuchi's dinner plans were on Friday night, when he may or may not have rented out a luxury restaurant in Toronto, people were going crazy at that whole story. So, and then, by the way, for Bob Nightingale to jump in and be like, actually, I know exactly where Shohei Ohtani is, and he's at his house right now. For all of that to happen within a span of like 3 hours was just amazing. So Arson Judge was pretty funny, but I'm going to give it to Flight Show 37 as the craziest, funniest free agent story that has happened over the last 2 years.
I feel like if you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, you have to almost put the blame on Drake, though. Bring back the Drake curse, because him rocking the Ohtani jersey on his IG story, also internet gold.
But he only did that because John Morosi reported that Ohtani was going to Toronto. Like, Drake only got involved in this game as a chain reaction to all of the stories that were coming out about Flight Show 37. Like, this was Drake jumping into the weeds of this whole crazy Friday that happened in the baseball world, which, by the way, I've seen Drake at Toronto Blue Jays games before, but didn't know that he was this baseball fan who heard that Ohtani was coming to Canada and was like, let me insert myself directly into the Shohei Ohtani free agent sweepstakes.
Well, it's like we said the last couple weeks with the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are unique because they are Canada's only team. So Drake being the spokesman for Canadian sports, of course, he's going to jump on that. And of course, he's going to endorse the Blue Jays regardless of how big of a Blue Jays fan he actually is. So Drake saw the opportunity. Drake tried to make some headlines himself off of that and maybe make a partnership with Ohtani. If he would have signed, one has to almost wonder, being that Toronto is kind of like open territory, is this almost like a missed opportunity for branding from Ohtani? Because the Dodgers are their brand. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. Dodger dogs, the blue, the history, all the international superstars they already have to their legacy as is. Toronto, he really could have put a stamp on there. And of course, there was talks of him being the international superstar to dominate Canada, the US, and Japan.
Shohei Ohtani, I don't feel like needs all that much more when it comes to branding, right? Like, he's Shohei Ohtani at this point. And if this is going to come back around to the Dodgers, like, the thing that I think people don't realize about this free agency saga, this was 2 years in the making for the Dodgers. The Dodgers purposefully did not go after Trey Turner, at the very least not go all in on bringing back Trey Turner, a player that they gave up significant prospect capital to acquire. Like, when they traded Josiah Gray and they traded Keibert Ruiz, those were players that previously they were not willing to include in trade packages, going all the way back to like Manny Machado becoming available back in 2018. So like, they traded significant prospect capital for Scherzer, who ended up getting hurt and didn't really play all that much in his half a season with the Dodgers, and Trey Turner, who was a foundational piece of the greatest regular season team in Dodger history. They did not pursue him in free agency. They gave away Cody Bellinger for free just to clear up the flexibility to go after this guy specifically. And also, Justin Turner goes out the door, but JD Martinez is a temporary stopgap. They bring in Jason Hayward on a 1-year contract, knowing that it wasn't a guarantee he'd be back for 24. I know he's signed a 1-year extension now, but it wasn't a guarantee at the time that Hayward would come back. Like, they spent 2 years constructing a roster to go after Ohtani and pay Ohtani whatever he wanted. And we'll see what happens from that standpoint. But I don't think Ohtani should worry about the branding of like being Toronto's guy or being the Dodgers guy, because like, he's Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers of all franchises, with the reputation, with the brand that you're talking about, more money than God. They were willing to set all of that aside to push this team in the Ohtani direction, to push themselves in the Ohtani free agent direction. And good for Shohei Ohtani. He gets to make $700 million and he doesn't have to move houses.
Speaking of missed opportunities, I guess I have to approach this from the Giants fan perspective. On Friday, I was seeing reports that the Giants were offering somewhere in the ballpark at $600 million. And then I'm seeing reports from John Heyman last night that says the Giants weren't even included in the top 3. One has to speculate and wonder what type of pressure this now is going to put on Farhan Zaidi going into this season, because yet again, another big fish doesn't sign in San Francisco. Once again, not even in the top 3. If you're seeing reports like that, you're like, damn, what were the 3 teams that jumped ahead of the Giants in this speculation? Of course, I assume the Blue Jays were in there, but what was that 3rd team? Was it Chicago? Was it the Braves? We heard their name get floated around as we got closer to Shohei signing officially. So what do you make of it from the Giants standpoint?
For the Giants, what did I say in our very first video? I've seen the Giants get leveraged in free agent negotiations too many times to believe that they actually have a chance to land Shohei Ohtani. Because we said it from the very beginning, in what world are the Dodgers, who have been motivated for 2 years to sign this player, going to get outspent by the San Francisco Giants, a team that has money, has spent money, but hasn't been willing to spend that $300 million kind of money that the Dodgers have had no hesitation of doing, because this is now the 2nd time that the Dodgers have done this, not just signing a player to 300 plus million, but also deferring the money well after their career is done. Because Mookie Betts is going to get paid like $7 million a year from like age 40 to 55 as well.
But the Giants have been willing to spend that money. They just haven't been willing to have anyone take their money, because Carlos Correa, he did sign. They got cold feet and backed out of it. They were going to sign Aaron Judge to a substantial contract, but he said, I'm going to stick with the Yankees. They wanted to sign back in the day. Let's go way back. John Lester. I don't think they made an honest attempt at re-signing Chris Bryant. Bryce Harper, reportedly, they were offering a big contract, but he chose to go to Philadelphia at the end of the day. So the Giants have thrown out big money contracts at players, free agents, but it hasn't worked. It hasn't been enough. And it makes me kind of like wonder, what is it? Because it's clearly not California taxes when we consider that Shohei literally just signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Los Angeles is in California, the last I checked. Is it the ballpark? Are power hitters scared away from the ballpark? Well, they brought the fences in center field. They made some improvements to make it more hitter friendly. Still one of the most pitcher friendly ballparks in baseball. What is it about this Giants? Is it just Farhan Zaidi is a terrible negotiator, and when they go in there, they just can't seem to close the deal? And if that's the case, why did you extend this guy?
Juju, the Giants have made the playoffs one time in the last 7 years. And I know that one year they won 107 games, but they also lost to the Dodgers in the first round of the playoffs.
Again, why did you extend Farhan Zaidi, though? If you're bringing it up, you've only made the playoffs once in the last 7 years. We're at the point now where most of this team, if not all of this team, is Zaidi guys.
It's kind of the New York Knicks syndrome, where like the New York Knicks can get people that want to sign with their team. There are lots of people who want to play for the New York Knicks. You just got to put forth a reputation of competitive baseball. And I know the Giants won the division in 2021 and won 107 games. They lost to the Dodgers in the playoffs. By proxy, I think the Dodgers should have taken that NL West banner back with them to Los Angeles after the series ended. So like the Dodgers have ran that division for 10 years in a row. They've won 9 division titles. The 10th year, the Giants won and the Dodgers beat them in the playoffs. Like, it's their division, and the Giants would have to pay a premium to sign some of these guys the same way that San Diego is paying a premium to sign some of these guys, whether it's Xander Bogaerts, whether it's Manny Machado. Like, you're going to have to pay up in order to compete, and the Giants, from what reports indicate, weren't willing to go into that $700 million territory with Ohtani, which in fairness, the Dodgers aren't really either, if you break down what deferment actually means in that contract. But the Dodgers had the foresight to spend against their future assets in order to separate themselves from the Ohtani sweepstakes. And maybe the Giants had a plan in place like that. Maybe they weren't as creative with their contract offer and stuff. And maybe it was always going to be the Dodgers in the first place. But yeah, it seemed like exactly what we were talking about at the beginning happened, which was the Dodgers were not going to get outspent by the San Francisco Giants. They're hedging against future assets in order to put a bid forward that nobody else was going to match when it came to Ohtani.
At the end of the day, the Dodgers check all the boxes that we said for Shohei Ohtani, right? We said a team that can win, that can compete. The Dodgers, as you mentioned, have been winning the division repeatedly. They've won 100 games pretty consistently over the last couple of years. They have star power in their lineup. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts surrounding Ohtani in a lineup. Forget about it. That's scary. They have the big brand. They're in Los Angeles. He didn't even have to move. He's literally gets to stay in Southern California where he already was for his time being in the U.S. Great. He got the great big contract, which $700 million for a guy coming off his second Tommy John. That's insane. And as much of a good player as I think Shohei Ohtani is, I think part of the value in him is being the two-way player he is. So the Dodgers are taking a huge risk here and signing a guy that might only be Shohei the hitter moving forward. We don't know. We'll see. Maybe he comes back stronger from that second UCL injury, but it's hard to say exactly. Again, the Dodgers just fit every little tick mark that you could ask for Shohei whenever we were kind of like evaluating his choices of where he would want to go. So it's not a surprise. It's not something that people should be shocked about. I don't think anyone was really shocked when they saw that he signed with the Dodgers, except if, again, you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan and you got your hopes up. We didn't really address the Angels stuff. Did you have any final thoughts there as far as, again, their failures to trade him last year and their failures to even be in this race this year? No.
I mean, for the Dodgers, that was the team they were saying for 18 months that he was going to sign with, right? They were saying the Dodgers are the team, and the Angels mismanaged the whole thing. They walk away with nothing for Ohtani at the end of it, and now Shohei Ohtani will probably go into the Hall of Fame wearing Dodger blue. I mean, the Angels, if you're talking about what the Angels are doing going forward, I mean, they've made it clear that Mike Trout is available for a godlike offer. Any team can trade for Mike Trout if they want to. I don't think anyone is in the negotiating room right now around a Mike Trout trade, but I mean, the Angels are just kind of stuck in neutral. They lose out on Shohei Ohtani. That doesn't really help their chances of making the playoffs, although baseball makes no sense. So maybe something stupid will happen. I mean, it will go down as one of the great wastes of an early career in baseball history. It doesn't usually get that transparent. Like when you talk about Bryce Harper with the Washington Nationals, like you can point to making the playoffs with Bryce Harper. You can point to deep playoff runs that got spoiled by Clayton Kershaw or whatever you want to point to, but like it's never as transparent as you had the best player in baseball and just didn't make the playoffs. It's rarely ever as transparent as it's been bad for the Angels right now. So yeah, I mean, the Angels miscalculated this thing, and Artie Moreno miscalculated it. Perry Messiaen, the general manager, miscalculated this thing, and this is the end result that we all knew was coming. He was never going back to the Angels, and it was never in question that he was going to go back there. So yeah, tough break, Anaheim. I don't want to like rub salt in the wounds on this one, but like, yeah, it's a colossal failure. And now you get to watch Shohei Ohtani go make the Hall of Fame and put Dodger blue on his cap when he goes into the Hall of Fame.
Ouch. Tough break for Anaheim. Baseball hell once again. Anyway, guys, well, what do you think of Shohei signing with the Dodgers? What do you think of the numbers, the deferments, all the breakdown financial? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias. From Juju and Kyle, stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time.